My name is Jason Simard, and I am the founder of Sims Coaching Systems. I'm here with my co-founder, Joe Moretti, and we're here on the 7-Figure Real Estate Podcast, the podcast you didn't know you even needed. Everyone, get your notepads out. Let's go. We're going to bring you value week over week, and we're actually going to be a lot of fun, and we hope to make you laugh out loud. Subscribe to our channel. Check the content out. If you're looking to take this to a whole nother level, we got you covered. Happy Tuesday, Joe Moretti, episode 4.
Episode 4, my lucky number 4.
Joe, let's talk about the weekend.
Oh man, my weekend was great, and we'll get into that. But I got a bit of an issue with you, man. Like this is the first time I have an actual issue with you.
Really?
Yeah.
4 years
and
we've known each other now.
4 years, and I have my first problem.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny because we don't rehearse this before we go live.
Oh, shit. We got some beef on air?
We've got some beef on air.
Okay.
I have an issue, and I've had people reach out, and producer Paige can verify this. People have reached out about this issue.
Oh, boy.
It is an issue around the social media picture that you just updated.
Uh-oh.
You strategically chose that picture. Talk to me why you chose that picture.
Which picture are you talking about?
The picture where it's you and I, we're wearing the hoodies, arms crossed. See?
Oh,
you
yes.
son of a bitch. You chose that picture for a reason.
Oh, yes,
Now,
the picture.
Let's just talk. Yeah, so you're even excited now.
Yeah.
So before the picture gets taken down, and it will give everybody a chance to go in and check it out, because it's a false sense of reality, because it's not what we actually look like. So,
it looks exactly how we look like.
It's not.
I'm super handsome. You're pretty good looking.
But let's talk height.
Height-wise.
Get the hell out of here.
Height-wise.
Freaking height-wise. Okay, so let's, for anybody who has not seen the picture, because it might even be gone by the time this episode comes out.
Oh, no, that's staying up.
Talk me through the picture.
It's a great photo. It's a photo.
It is.
Me and you are standing there. I think we look handsome.
Yeah.
The branding's nice.
Okay.
And I think we look like we're almost exact same height on that photo.
Except
what, Joe?
you know it. Just say it.
What? I'm not saying anything.
Just say it.
Say what?
You sturdy son of a bitch.
What?
I got you.
The evidence is right there.
I have you.
You guys take a look at the photo and you tell me if Joe and I are the exact same height. We're pretty much the same height.
So producer Paige, can you please do a side by side? So like one picture of the current page, split it in half, and can you put the one of us walking across the street? I just want people to get like just scale. Scale's important in life. And let's actually see.
So here's the thing. Let's move on.
See? Okay.
Let's move
All
on.
right. Okay.
Let's move on. We look good. It's a great photo, and we're about the same height. I can't help
you got
that.
me by like 2.
You stood there.
For the first time in any sense, you've got me by 2 inches, which is it doesn't happen in any situation.
Are we talking height still?
I'm talking whatever you want to talk, but you know as well as I do, and that's why I've got like my arms crossed, and I'm just like Jesus, because you're like, Joe, just give me a sec, just bend your knees.
No, I didn't ask you to do that.
Yes,
I was
you did.
standing on my tippy
you
toes.
You said to me, you're like, for once,
and you
man,
dropped down.
You're like, for once, let me be taller.
Okay, all right. Joe is taller than me in real life. There's a photo now out there on our coaching page that might make you believe that we're the same height. Okay, there you go. It's out in public. Can we move on, please? It's a good photo, though. We look pretty handsome.
It is a good photo. It's not real. To me, it's almost like an Instagram filter. You Instagram filtered me.
Oh boy. Let's move on.
Okay, let's move on.
There's a story.
Yeah,
Dennis Rodman.
Oh man, Dennis Rodman. So growing up, I loved basketball way more than I like it now. But I grew up a Lakers fan. The reason I grew up a Lakers fan is I had family in a place called Corona Del Mar, which is about, hour and 10 south of LA. So I used to spend my summers there. And my family would take me to go see like Magic and all the guys play. And I was a huge Rodman fan as a kid, even before he was the Laker. So when he was a Laker, I was like, that was like my element, man. It's the worm.
Yeah, the worm.
I'd say,
probably the greatest or top 2 greatest defenders in NBA history.
He is the greatest rebounder. Fact.
Unbelievable.
So this one time, and it was one of the only times in my life I've ever been like starstruck. And I pulled up to the corner of Pacific Coast Highway. I was making a left, and I don't know where the hell I was going. And all of a sudden, the car starts shaking. And I'm like, oh my God, it's San Andreas fault line. We're all done for. Like, that's how loud this sound and how much this vibration was hitting me. And I look over, and I just see this giant human being on a chopper. Like one of those ones with like the front wheels coming like 8 feet off the frame.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And I look over, it's freaking Rodman. Like, this is a single lane, and he's now beside me, like straddling the line, turning left as well. He has no helmet. He's got like dyed white hair. He's like bleached out. No helmet. No shirt. And here's the part that messed me up. No shoes. Giant white, like those.
And he's on a motorcycle, like
he's on a chopper. Giant white sunglasses that cover half of his face, and he's wearing these booty shorts, like the Daisy Dukes, man, like jean shorts. But if you cut them above the pocket, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So his ass is hanging out.
Oh God.
And he pulls up, and I didn't know what to say, but I had to say something. So I put the window down of the car, and I went, hey, Dennis. Nothing. Like I could have screamed at him and you couldn't hear.
Sure.
Over the sound of his motorcycle. I'm like, hey, Dennis. Nothing. So finally I worked up the courage and I'm like, hey, Dennis. And I yell at him. And he just looks over at me with almost like a look of disgust. Like, how dare you?
How dare you?
Soil my name out of your mouth. And he looks over, and the only words that could come out of my mouth were, hey, Dennis. He goes, yeah. I go, fuck the Lakers, because it was in 2000 when they dropped him before he went to Dallas. All I could say was, Dennis, fuck the Lakers. He goes, yeah, man. Dropped that thing into first and ran the red light to turn left and just peel it out. So, yeah, that
Dennis Rodman's story.
He was a champ, man. He used to own a bar called Josh Slocum, which was on Balboa Island. Never actually went there, but I remember one time I was coming back from Huntington, a place called the Yard House. I don't even know if it's still there, but you get like beer in like these yard glasses. Come back from the Yard House, and it was just like bumper to bumper traffic at like midnight. And I remember I ended up going through like this police road check. There's like helicopters and stuff. I'm like, man, somebody must have gotten murdered. And we pull up, and I asked the cop, I'm like, is everything okay? Like, what's going on? He goes, fucking Rodman. And I went, what? He goes, fucking Rodman had an unsanctioned birthday party. He was choppering in a band called 311 and another band called Live. Do you remember them from back in the 90s?
Yeah.
He choppered in 311 and Live for a bonfire on Huntington Beach. No permit. Just started bringing helicopters with bands in and generators. Shut down all of Pacific Coast Highway for about 3 hours, and they can get him the hell out of there. So
love it. You know what? Here's the thing. I kind of think that most people like a bad boy. You know?
For sure,
it's kind of cool. Like somebody with an edge that does things a little bit different. Dennis Rodman, he had an edge. You know, he definitely
married
was
himself, for Christ's sake. Like, he put a wedding dress on and married himself. I mean, like, and I think that it's hard nowadays, I think, for people to actually be themselves.
Right.
I think it's tough. And when I look at Rodman, you know, all the off-court antics and distractions, anybody who's ever seen The Last Dance, right? Like the distractions that he caused the team. But I'll tell you, man, when he showed up with heart. And I think he had to be that authentic self in order to, you know, bring that to the court, right? Like that was his release, his output. And nowadays I think that a lot of that is suppressed. Like you can't really be yourself. You can't take a stance. You just can't.
You can't stand for anything anymore.
No,
you'll offend somebody.
And that's what you always tell me, right? If you the second you stand for something, you've offended somebody. We talk about this all the time. So
That's true.
I'm interested, man. Like, give me your thoughts on the whole thing.
Oh man, just like the whole like world we're in right now.
Yeah, because you're a very opinionated guy,
Sure.
and it's funny. I think that when we get on these calls and these podcasts, people kind of experience like usually we have a laugh and we'll hit with some value, but you're a pretty worldly dude. Like it's funny. You get almost obsessive over certain topics. And I've always really respected that about you. If you're going to learn something, you'll know it inside and out. And I like that level of commitment. So hit us, man. So what are your thoughts on what's going on right now?
Oh man, there's so many things going on right now that are just honestly weird. I gotta say, like having 4 kids and trying to raise them through this world that we're in right now. And we live in a weird time. We live in a time where if you stand for something, you're gonna get canceled, or you're gonna offend somebody, and that person's gonna try and ruin your life or ruin your livelihood. And it's kind of sad that we can't have a belief or an opinion, discuss it with somebody, and just have open discourse. Like you and I could passionately disagree on something, and at the end of the day, I'd still take a bullet for you. You know what I mean? Like you'd still be like one of my brothers, and I would literally take a bullet for you. Like my friendships aren't conditional on people seeing the world exactly the way that I do. And I just think people have lost the art of just a real conversation. I feel like all we have is very surface level, fluffy conversations. And you know me, I love the in-depth conversations. I like talking to people that like stand for something, whether they agree with me or not. Just the fact that they're passionate about something makes them interesting to me. And sometimes maybe I'm a bit of a shit, but like I will purposely sort of like challenge them a little bit just to kind of bring out that opinion. And what I've found just doing this experiment with people is that a lot of people just have no ability to understand that like we're not fighting. This is just a passionate conversation about a topic. And there's a topic right now that I just heard the other day that was pretty interesting. Did you know that testosterone levels have dropped in men on average by a staggering amount? Like I've heard as much as 50% over testosterone levels from like 30, 40, 50 years ago.
That's crazy. Now, is that because it's illegal to inject yourself in sports? No, right? Like I think that it's a very interesting stat because you sent me some content around it. So talk a little bit about it because I think it's a really intriguing concept.
Well, I think there's a couple things that maybe are causing this. I think number one, I think like boys, like look at our kids. How much time do they spend playing video games? Right? Like the amount of times that they spend playing video games are not as active as they were when we were kids. Like when I was a kid, I was never home. I was outside playing some sport, doing some physical activity, right? Producer Ryan, you remember those days, right? Like as kids, like we weren't playing video games or behind screens as much as kids are today. I think that's part of it. I think we also, in this whole like societal shift where, it's all about equality, which I'm a big proponent of. I think men and women should absolutely have equal rights. I think that's super important. However, in that movement, I think what's happened is we're now basically saying to girls like you should be focusing on your career, you should be like dominant, you should be like almost like the characteristics that men traditionally have held, and men are being suppressed. Like toxic masculinity is like a word that gets tossed around quite loosely, and I didn't realize that like being strong, being competitive was a bad thing. Like when did being like masculine become a bad thing? It's almost like a negative term. So it almost is like society, in order to make the playing field the same, has tried to like almost like bring men down and then try to uplift women to kind of like meet in the middle. And the reality of it is my personal belief is we're not the same. We were built differently. We were always built to complement each other. I mean, women are some of the most incredible beings in the world. I mean, like literally all of us came through like a woman to be here. Like their superpowers are just incredible. But to say that we're the same is weird. It's not that one's better than the other. We complement each other and always have. And just saying that, like I'm saying this right now and I'm like, oh my God, I've offended somebody. Somebody's going to be like, how dare that you say that men and women aren't the same? It's like, well, we're not. We're built differently. And I didn't realize that was a bad thing. 10 years, 20 years ago, like that wouldn't even be an issue. Today, you can't even have that conversation. So I'm curious, anybody listening right now, do you agree with me, disagree with me? And again, we can have a disagreement and that's okay. But what do you think? Do you think like we're exactly the same?
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes down to DNA and, again, like and we talk about this all the time, like if a big sandstorm came
right,
and it buried myself and it buried producer Paige in sand.
Yeah.
And 500 years later, they come and they dig up our bones and they do a DNA test. What would I test at? What would Paige test at? Well, a man and a woman. So you start kind of formulating those concepts in your mind. I'm a firm believer, not so much in the, just you be you, do whatever the hell you want, because I think that again is, and somebody had mentioned this to me in the past and was resonated, it's a 1 degree shift off the center. But I'm a firm believer in, everybody's different. I think that there are some absolutely like badass, dominant women in business that I look up to. We have some coaching students that I try to almost emulate. We've got some, some male coaching students as well. So I kind of just try to pull the best from people where I can. But I think it's a definitely interesting concept that, one needs to be doing one thing, one needs to be doing the other, and then somebody can just come in and like make that shift.
Right.
Right. And I think that certain shifts can't just be made on the fly. They almost have to happen naturally.
Right.
Not being told. Does that make sense?
Well, here's the thing, right? At the end of the day, if you took 100 women and you took 100 men, we are going to have differences.
Absolutely.
And we're probably more alike than we're different, but we are going to have some differences on average. Now, is there always exceptions? Of course there is.
Absolutely.
There's some brilliant, smart, like very capable businesswomen. And there's the same with men, but there's, really bad businesswomen and there's really bad businessmen. So I don't think it's about that. I just think it's celebrating our superpowers and our differences is okay. There was a time where, men were protectors of women. If you look historically, men have been the protectors of women, right?
And infrastructure creation as well.
Infrastructure, men, like the infrastructure that the world that we're in mostly was built by men. But then if you look at the social infrastructure of the world, that was mostly built by women. And this is where, again, we've complemented each other. I used to watch Survivor a lot. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've never noticed a single time where the person that was out spearing fish was one of the females. It's usually a guy that's going out and doing that because we're built more for physicality and strength. Not to say that a woman couldn't do that, but if you look at like the gender roles that sort of evolve in a show like that, men and women are different, and it proves that. Doesn't mean there isn't capable women and capable men. It's just at the end of the day, I do believe that we're different, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
And I think the one thing to take away, like agree or disagree, I think there's always room for conversation. But it's when measures become arbitrary and forced, that's when you're really going to run into the issue. And that's my biggest issue with that, is that there's no room for conversation. It's either like black or white, right or wrong. You are, you can either have a podcast or you're canceled. Right? It's one or the other. And I think that to me is the biggest issue, is that you're forced to pick a side versus listening to both and examining the facts and making up your own mind.
Totally. And listen, I'll end it on this, okay? You may disagree with me, and that's totally fine. Like, I don't hate you, and I hope you don't hate me. I, myself, personally, I've always been an old school guy in the sense that, like, I've always taken a tremendous amount of pride in being a good, strong provider for my wife. That's really important to me. I want to provide the stability and the security, and I love providing. I know men that stay home and their wives are the providers. I don't judge them. I respect them. That's their own personal relationship. But I've been judged for wanting to be that guy in my relationship. Now, again, it works for my wife and I. We've communicated these values. And like when we got into a relationship, decided to have a family, we talked about these things. She's had to physically sacrifice to provide children, and the responsibility that she's taking on with our kids is why I'm able to do what I do. So we support each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
But we would be more of like your traditional relationship in that sense, and I know that you have some of those similar values. One of the things that you told me when you started working with me is like, listen, I want to be able to provide my wife the option where she can choose anything at the grocery store that she wants and never look at a price tag. I want my wife to feel secure and protected. I think that's an admirable trait. And I
sure.
didn't realize that in our society nowadays that people would take that as a negative or something that is to be canceled over.
Yeah, and again, I think that there's such a gray area that gets glossed over. Like if we look at sort of like my relationship with Jen, is I also really respect the fact that so my wife works, for anybody who doesn't know Jen, she works at one of the big 5 banks in Canada, and she's in credit adjudication. And I love the fact that she's also like top of her game in credit adjudication. I find that a major point of pride that she's so amazing at that skill. So for me, for as much as people sort of like looking in kind of go, well, Joe, you've got like that very traditional. We also have a lot of things that are non-traditional, right? Like she absolutely like kicks ass in her role. I also do a chunk of the cooking. We split the cleaning. So I think there's always a blend, and you kind of have to fit with what works for each individual family. But for me, the biggest piece is there should always be room for conversation.
Totally.
Nothing should be arbitrary.
And listen, anybody listening, my wife has her own business that she runs. She's going to school right now to be a nutritionist. And you know what? I support her when she has her classes. I've arranged my schedule to support her. Anything she's ever wanted to do, I 100% support her. But at the end of the day, the one thing that I've always taken pride in is like, listen, I couldn't deliver the children and do that part because she did that sacrifice. I will forever be in her debt wanting to provide a comfortable lifestyle for her where she doesn't have to worry about money and never has to worry about being the maid breadwinner. that's a prideful thing for me.
I agree, me too.
And some people would say, well, that's toxic. Well, no, I'm not saying that it can't be the other way around. I'm just saying that for me is really, really important. And I think if you polled 100 men and you asked them this question confidentially, nobody listening, I think most men do want to be a good provider. And I think most men want to provide that stability and security for their spouse. I do think that men want that. And I think if you asked 100 women that same question, I think the majority of women want to be with a capable man who can provide that stability and security. It makes sense instinctively for them to have that, because a woman gets pregnant, obviously there's physical consequences for her, right? I mean, it makes it harder for her to go out and provide because she's got other physical limitations. So strategically, it makes sense for women to be with a capable man. And I think men should be striving to want to be capable and strong and the best version of themselves. But we can also be sensitive. We can also be, cook. I love to cook. I help with raising my kids. I'm in there changing diapers, wiping bums, doing all of that, right? Stuff that maybe 50 years ago our grandfathers wouldn't have done, right? We do that. So it's all about evolution. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's anything wrong with us wanting to be those traditional roles if that works for you.
If plumbing wasn't an issue, we'd be one hell of a power couple. You know that, right?
Yeah, plumbing's a serious issue between us, bud. I love you, man.
We would be a power couple. So, let's focus on that word capable.
Sure.
And let's sort of transition a little bit, and let's talk about what I feel, because we talked about this earlier, what I feel makes real estate agents capable of maintaining long-term lasting relationships with their clients. And it's funny, one thing you always say is there's no such thing as a past client.
Yeah, they should be a lifelong client. You should
Absolutely.
be committed to the process of maintaining relationships and contact with your clients. I think it's important that you understand that the word past client means they're in the past. If you think of them as a client forever, that means you're constantly looking to bring value to that relationship, right? And I think that's, if you approach it that way, it's impossible in the long game that you're not going to have a higher amount of retention, more repeat business, more advocates out there. And so some of what we wanted to kind of touch on today from a real estate value perspective is some of the simple touches that you can make that can make a meaningful impact. So one of the things that I'm really big on is I love the idea of thoughtful sendouts.
Yeah.
Right? What can I do to show you that I'm thinking about you? For example, if somebody has a baby, that's a big deal, right? That's the most amazing life event that happens in someone's life. I think sending them a thoughtful card during that time frame, maybe a little baby blanket with the baby's name on it. People go through things. I'm fortunate we have clients who have bereavements that happen. Their dog passed away.
That's it. Pets are a big one.
Pets are huge, right? And so, everybody loves their pet. And just sending them some flowers and a nice card, and maybe, they posted a picture of their pet online and you took that and you put it in a card for them so that they could have that forever. And you just wrote something thoughtful like, hey, Joe, I just wanted you to know, I know what it's like to lose a pet, and it's hard. It's really hard. And I just wanted you to know I was thinking about you and your family during this tough time. And I hope that I could just put a little bit of a smile on your face, and I just want you to know that I care about you.
What a great piece. Now, let's just take a second here, because I love that pet piece. Now, shout out to my man, John Sheplak. This will prove, John, if you're watching, wherever you are in the universe, I was listening in Vegas. John Sheplak gave a stat. 60% of people in North America, what do they own?
A pet.
A freaking dog. So why is it that we're so concerned with learning about someone's, where they are financially? We're so concerned about pre-approvals, all those pieces, that we don't even know if they have a dog.
Good point.
I think that's a great point. Just sit on that for a sec. We're so focused on finding out these facts that we lose sight of the actual relationship aspect, which to me is one of the key parts of being a successful advisor. It's trust. It is empathy. It's rapport. It's not sympathy. Sympathy is different than empathy, right? So again, it's knowing somebody has a pet and actually giving a shit.
Right.
Versus, you have a dog? Okay, cool. Well, do you need a fence for that dog? Versus, hey, man, I got a dog too. What's your dog's name?
Yeah.
Sammy. Oh, yeah, well, my dog's name is George. Isn't it hilarious when people give dogs human first names?
Yeah.
Right? You're even smiling right now.
Right.
And so I think
because I'm thinking of being at your house and I'm sitting there and unsolicited George jumps on me and freaking slobbers my face, right?
nothing is solicited with George. Like he's a habitual line stepper.
Yeah, totally.
Habitual
He always
line stepper.
crosses the line, and it's like, oh fuck, George. But I love the guy.
But that's the thing, though, right? It's such a big piece of like our family dynamic is our pets and our kids. So if I was going to work with an advisor who's sitting there like so focused on the facts and the details and doesn't care about like myself, the kids, my wife, the pets, this, that, I don't know if I'd ever use them again. And you know what? In that case, put me down as a past client.
Right. I love it. So here's the deal. Here's some ideas for you. Find out who of your clients has pets. Make that part of your interview process to get that out of them. Find out what type of pet. Find out the name, right? And the more you get them to talk about their pets, you're going to find out, is this like a fanatical dog person or a fanatical cat person like producer Ryan? Ryan's like, he's like got 18 cats. We just started a new rumor. Ryan has 18 cats. Yeah, your wife said it's a problem. I thought it was only
16. So.
16 cats? I don't know. But anyways. But yeah, find out what type of person they are. And if they're passionate about pets, guess what? You've got something that you can always have conversations on. Do thoughtful things for the dog. Next time that they're in your office, invite the dog and maybe have a little treat waiting for them. Do the little things that make people feel valued and talk about things that are important to them. Right? Producer Paige, she's got her little ankle biter dog who hates my guts. He comes here and he will like not acknowledge my existence. I don't know what I did to him. Charlie.
I like Chucky.
You like Chucky? Yeah, Joe's got a nickname for him, but he's a cute little dog. For whatever reason, he doesn't like me. But I think you probably heard Paige talk behind my back about me, and he's just like, that Jason guy.
Screw that guy.
Yeah, exactly. But again, knowing that Paige has got Charlie and something that we can talk about. How's Charlie? What's new and exciting? Blah, 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 right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think the two best pieces, everybody asks all the time, well, drip campaigns, workflows. I think there's two things that people should be doing right now. There's two pieces of drip that I think are the most valuable. And you know what they are, man?
You go ahead. You name them.
Rock, paper, scissors.
You go.
No, you go.
No, you go.
All right. So number one, a really well-refined save search. I think that
have a great lead generation site.
You bet.
And from that site, have a quality save search, which is putting properties in front of your prospects that they might actually be interested in. I think that's a really good, valuable tool, and it's consistently putting touches out there on your behalf. So that's a really, really nice point that you just brought up there. Everybody's thinking, well, I need all these perfect drip campaigns. Well, actually, if you just put properties in front of people that are actually in line with what they're looking for over time, that's a pretty good way of them consistently seeing your logos.
Wow, and leverage a relationship through an amazing conversation to find out what they need.
Right.
Wow. Number two is the one paragraph email. I think that this is one of the most underutilized tactics in real estate. I truly do. I know the one paragraph email is something near and dear to your heart. Explain to people what that one paragraph email is. I love how you explain it.
Yeah, so it's so difficult to find time to meet with everybody all the time, right? So, many of you are like, I've got hundreds of past clients. I can't do coffee and lunch with all of them. Like, I just don't have the time. And I get it. I understand that. So your monthly one paragraph email, it's literally one paragraph. And it could sound something like this. Hey, Joe, what's new and exciting? By the way, I don't know if you knew this, but I have 4 kids, and I've been so busy with kids' activities. My oldest son, he's got a job now. He's 14. He got his first job. He got it on his own. I've got my 12-year-old who's playing competitive baseball. My 6-year-old is playing multiple activities, and my daughter's really big into gymnastics. I've got a few extra gray hairs that have come in since having 4 kids, but man, it's going by fast. What's new and exciting with you, right?
Wow.
Something as simple and as powerful as that, once a month, just something positive going on in your life that you send out to your database, and you consistently do it once a month, and you just change up the paragraph and keep it to one paragraph, no more.
With a picture.
If you can, attach a picture to it. Make sure you have a professional real estate signature tag with the email, so you don't have to talk real estate, but they'll see your real estate signature tag. Over the course of 1 year, that's 12 additional touches on top of anything else that you're doing. And it makes people feel like you're a human being. It's a way for them to connect with you. And it's a way for us to feel like we've at least had a quick catch-up coffee or a quick conversation. And it's a simple strategy that you guys can implement. And we've seen massive success with it.
Let's just quantify success. So we've seen people that in their about the 8 month to 1 year mark are actually getting like a 35 to 40% open rate. 35 to 40% open rate. And if that doesn't blow your mind, it should, right? Look at your last newsletter that you sent out. What was your open rate on the newsletter that you do once a month, if you remember?
Totally.
Right? So again, consistency. And you're going to hear that over every podcast. I think we end up saying something about consistency and priority management. But I know we could go on forever. So I'll tell you what.
Can I wrap up with one last
Please.
little piece? Last little piece. You could easily send a text message to those people. Hey, Joe, I sent you a quick email. When you get a minute, I'd love to hear back from you.
Beautiful.
Done. Easy. Touches, keeps people engaged. I hope you guys find this valuable. I hope you guys are entertained too. We try to have some fun with this podcast. Today we thought we'd hit something that's a little different with you and maybe just open up the idea that, hey, it's okay for us to not see the world exactly the same. And I think we should still be friends. I think that's kind of an important message. I think our world has been so divided in the last few years. And I think we need to go back to, hey, we can see the world differently and still be great friends. I'm choking.
You're choking up, man.
I'm choking up.
Do you need a hug?
Man, I'll take a hug after the show. Guys, subscribe. Make sure that you guys follow us on YouTube. We're also on, where else can they find us? You can find us on
YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, pretty well anywhere.
So make sure you download our podcast. If this is the first time tuning in, we've got some other episodes. We'd love for you guys to watch those. Stay tuned. Every Tuesday, we drop a new episode and we try to have fun, but also give you value at the same time. My man, as always, pleasure.
Highlight of my week.
Love it.
See you.
Cheers.